Welcome to the Quantum Guide Show, where you will find interesting guests and discussions about cutting-edge topics to assist you on your journey. The Quantum Guide Show is ideally suited to the newly awakened and for those who feel isolated by their newfound beliefs. The mind, body, and spirit thrive when we have a mission, and there is no greater mission than to become the change that we wish to see in the world. So hit the like button, subscribe to my YouTube, Odyssey, and Telegram channels, and share this show with your friends. Welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. Today in episode 91, I'm very pleased to introduce you to our first-time guest, Justin Travis from Myco Naturals Incorporated. Justin is passionate about natural health and is a big believer in the power of mushrooms to support a healthy lifestyle. He is the founder of Myco Naturals, which is a company dedicated to supplying high-quality mushroom products to their consumers. Hi, Justin. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to this. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. I'm just going to let the audience know I was actually at the very last session of the farmers market here in Red Deer, and I saw Justin's table, and I just went over and asked him if he'd want to be on my show right out of the blue, and he said yeah. So this is great. It's also the first time I've ever had anyone on the show who also lives in Red Deer, Alberta. So this is very, very cool. I'm really happy to have you and welcome you to the show. And this is going to be really interesting. Now, I grew up being taught that mushrooms were poisonous, stay away from them, don't eat them. It's something rarely was seen in my diet growing up. Even when I was growing up, you could get Money's mushrooms in the can, but I really didn't know very much about mushrooms. And I've tried taking some medicinal mushrooms with mixed results, but I'm really hoping that we can tell everybody. Oh yeah, I don't know, in case I didn't mention this yet, I'm not being sponsored in any way. This is not a paid podcast. This is just me wanting to bring you folks the information that I think is valuable, the products that I use in my own life. And this is not meant to be medical advice. It's just for your own information. So, Justin, let's start off with, how did you get interested in mushrooms? How did this all come about for you?
Yeah, so I kind of grew up, it was the same as you mentioned, where you learn, you know about mushrooms, but yeah, like mushrooms are bad, mushrooms are poison. But yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
grew up and to me, mushrooms were just, something you put in your soup or that goes in your steak. And it was actually a few years ago. So when the COVID pandemic started and, everyone's locked down, kind of like watching a bunch of Netflix shows because there's not much to do. So that's when I stumbled upon the Netflix documentary Fantastic Fungi. I'm not sure if
Mm-hmm.
you've seen it or any of your listeners, but it was really eye-opening for me. The powers of mushrooms, the way they interact in our ecosystem. And then, yeah, what really stood out to me was the medicinal properties and, ways they can help our health and we can benefit from them that way. So that kind of became my new like passion and hobby over the next little bit during COVID and, not much to do. So two things I did after that was I bought a lion's mane growing kit, which is
Mm-hmm.
essentially just like a block of a mushroom mycelium, and then you kind of take care of it and keep it humid and then it grows. So that was kind of something fun that I was doing and kind of learning about the process of growing. And then I also bought reishi mushroom, which is most well known for its relaxation properties and helping with sleep, because I've always had issues with sleep. So has my dad, my sister. So kind of something in my family that we've had issues with. And I tried reishi mushroom and after a few weeks, I started noticing, all right, I'm sleeping through the night. I'm not waking up 3, 4 times. I wake up feeling better rested. So that was kind of a big like eye opener, like, okay, like this is the real deal. And, there's studies backing this up. So yeah, that was big for me. And then actually just prior to COVID happening, I was in business school just at RDC, like Red Deer College. And I always kind of had a business mind. I always wanted to do something for myself. So with learning what these mushrooms, my initial thought was, okay, I can learn possibly to grow all these different mushrooms and then, learn to make my own sort of supplement line. And through my research, I realized there's a lot that goes into it. There's extraction methods and testing and a bunch of different things. So I'm like, hey, I think I'll start out, a little more simple. And I reached out to a few mushroom companies who already have their own supplement lines. And that's when I reached out to Vibe Mushrooms. So the CEO, Adrian Burke, me and him had conversations. I'm like, hey, this is what I want to do. Kind of start like a little online mushroom store and sell, mushroom supplements, mushroom products, and then do the farmers markets, of course. So me and so Adrian, we came to an agreement on kind of a wholesale deal. And yeah, so I currently sell their products, Vibe Mushrooms, which they have powder form and capsule form of 4 different mushrooms. And so that's kind of what I'm doing right now. I am looking to kind of like get more products, like different variations, like there's mushroom infused gummies or mushroom infused coffees, things like that. And then even potentially like growing supplies, like if people are interested in trying to grow them with say lion's mane, like spores and kind of things that go along with that. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. And yeah, that's kind of how I got into it.
Nice, nice. Well, there's certainly a need. I think what's happened, I already, had lost my faith in the medical industry, long before COVID. But one of the good things that's come from all the lockdowns is people are starting to take responsibility for their own health and turning away from allopathic medicine. Now, if any of you out there have a health issue, please don't misconstrue what I'm saying. I always recommend people seek, a qualified physician for a health issue. But short of that, or even after that, or even along with that, people are taking more charge of their own health. And what I've learned over the years is it's about getting better is about as easy as falling out of bed. We just don't know how to do it because we haven't been taught. So, I think diet and lifestyle is extremely important. And, that's a really, diet and exercise seems to be, a foundation. But there's so many ways of getting better. And I'm really happy, Justin, to have you on the show so that we can talk about medicinal mushrooms and what they can do, what they can't do. But let's talk a little bit about mushrooms themselves, because they are the freakiest little plant-like beings I've ever met. When I go off into the woods, I'm originally from Vancouver Island, where there's lots of woods and lots of mushrooms growing everywhere. And they're freaky little dudes, and they're everywhere. You can see why people believe in gnomes and fairies and stuff when you get to know the mushroom world. But it seems to me there's some kind of an intelligence within mushroom networks. Do you know anything about that? Can you speak a little bit about that to us?
Yeah, so mushrooms are kind of like fungi is kind of their own kingdom. Like they're not really plants, they're not really like animals, but they have more like they're very similar to us and animals in the way that they breathe in oxygen, give off CO2. And it's actually like not studied, but supposedly known that we came from fungi, like their most close like ancestor almost, which is interesting. But yeah, mycelial networks, like mycelium essentially is the roots of mushroom. So they grow, I think the largest living organism on earth is mycelium. And essentially just this white kind of stringy sort of substance that mushrooms grow from. And yeah, like mycelium, you can break it off, and then like just in my growing knowledge, you can break it off from, say, a petri dish and put it to a new petri dish, or put it to a grain substrate, and it'll like the networks will start like growing into new like substrates, right? So
Mhm.
it yeah, so I mean, they're really smart creatures, and yeah, it's really interesting. And I guess that might come into a way that they interact with our body, with the way that they interact with our immune system. I mean, with like adapting to stress and adapting to certain things. So they're really smart for sure.
Yeah, I think the whole network, it covers all the forests, it covers all the
Oh,
fields.
sorry.
It's absolutely
Sorry, just give me
everywhere.
1 second.
Okay.
Okay, you're good. Sorry about that.
No, that's all good. It's all good. You know, when you're doing podcasts, anything can happen and
Yeah.
anything does happen. And, a lot of people watch podcasts because they're tired of the fake, news presenters, and they like just the ordinary people talking about ordinary things. And we share information and we upload and download data that way. So it's super important. But no, all good, all good. So as I was saying, these networks, these stringy networks, they're spread everywhere. They literally connect every community with every community on the whole planet. Now, I don't know if mushrooms grow in the oceans or not, but certainly the land masses are amazing, for this incredible, intelligent network. And what I have found is there's so much in nature that just is begging for us to use it for healing, like all the weeds and stuff that people cut down and using the Roundup on and everything else. That is valuable medicine, just like mushrooms. So I don't want to take it off topic too much, but I'm wondering if we can talk about some of the mushrooms that you carry. And if you want to go into a little bit more in-depth information about that, that would be great. I was thinking, let's start with lion's mane. I recently, actually, before I met you, just bought some, thinking that I would use it for my brain health, because I'm 66 years old. I'm at the point now where I start to forget stuff. I gap stuff and I'm going, oh, no, I'm too young to go through that.
Yeah.
I got 20 more good years as far as I consider it. So that is why I got the lion's mane. So do you want to speak about that, Justin, and also a little bit more about the medicinal properties of just lion's mane, that alone?
Yeah, absolutely. So lion's mane is probably, at least for people who aren't familiar with mushrooms, the one they've probably heard of is lion's mane. It's a super popular one right now. So yeah, it's good for the brain, good for kind of focus and memory. So lion's mane contains two unique compounds called hericenones and erinacines. And it's funny because the Latin name for lion's mane is Hericium erinaceus. So that's a good way to remember those compounds. But erinacines do a unique thing in the brain. They're able to cross the blood-brain barrier and produce nerve growth factor in the brain, or NGF. And for healthy like individuals, younger brains, you're able to produce plenty of NGF on your own, which is and then with older, as your brain starts getting older, you don't produce as much NGF. So that's where something like lion's mane comes into effect. The erinacines cross the blood-brain barrier and start producing NGF. So like neural connections and things of that nature, which are, like I said, good for focus and memory. And yeah, there's been plenty of studies done. One with I think 30, I might jumble the numbers, but 30
Okay.
adults with cognitive dysfunction. They took kind of standardized tests for their cognitive abilities, and then half the group was given lion's mane, half the group wasn't. And after weeks like 6, 8, 14, they showed that the group that was taking lion's mane performed better on these tests. So that was a unique study that was done. And then another unique study that was done, which was on mice, actually. Paul Stamets has mentioned this one. But so lion's mane is also being studied for Alzheimer's and dementia, possible preventative medicine. So a group of mice was put into a maze, and then the food was put somewhere, and they were given time to kind of learn the maze and how to find the food. And then once they were able to figure that out, they were injected with a polypeptide that induced beta amyloid plaques into their brain, which are or not compounds, but these beta amyloid plaques grow in your brain, and they're kind of precursors to Alzheimer's. They cause that memory loss.
Mm-hmm.
So then these mice, they like forgot how to find the food, they were like all confused. And then same thing, they took half the mice and gave them lion's mane, half the mice they just left alone. And the mice that were given lion's mane were able to, their neurons were able to kind of regenerate. It was able to like discontinue the effect that the beta amyloid plaques had, and they were able to find the food again. So that was another interesting study that was done. So there definitely is thing like a lot to back it up. And yeah, it's called the brain mushroom for a reason, because there's so many great benefits in that sense. And then it also has just general kind of benefits with gut health is a big thing. And then just boosting your immune system, which is common in all medicinal mushrooms. So
Wow, fantastic. So although we're not giving medical advice, it sounds to me like lion's mane would be really good for anybody who suffers from brain fog. And you can get brain fog when you're 16 years old. It's part of it is our North American diet and stress and all kinds of things. So here's something simple found found in nature that is going to help with those kind of things, not to mention hopefully well, I'm not going to say a cure for Alzheimer's, but certainly when you're on your way to Alzheimer's, it would certainly slow down that process. So that's really, really fantastic. Yeah, lion's mane. And the other thing too is the four main mushrooms that we're going to discuss today are not hallucinogenic. So, some people are worried about that. I think the stem and stack is something different. We'll talk about that maybe near the end, because that's something that I plan to do soon. And a lot of people have benefited from it. But in the meantime, just the lion's mane is really helpful. And for those that don't have the confidence, the knowledge, or the skill to go out and actually harvest their own mushrooms, it's great to find a supplier who has quality products that we can depend on. Let's move on to the reishi. You talked about reishi. Yeah, I have no idea even how to use reishi mushrooms. What would you like to say about that?
yeah, so like I said, reishi is probably my personal favorite just because of my sleep issues. But yeah, reishi's been used for thousands of years by ancient Chinese cultures. It contains triterpenoids, which are alcohol soluble. So like I mentioned before with extraction methods. So with reishi, you want it to be dual extracted with hot water and alcohol. So that pulls
Yeah.
out these triterpenoids. And the triterpenoid ganideric acids is what helps with sleep and relaxation. I'm not a biologist. I'm not super familiar with how it all works, but I believe it interacts with like serotonin receptors, and yeah, helps you fall asleep, stay asleep, which was a big thing for me, and then kind of waking up feeling refreshed. And then it's big with just overall immunity, like boosting natural killer cells, B cells, T cells, things of that nature. And there's also been studies with cancer fighting as well, which mushrooms are, there's lots of studies done about that potentially being used with chemotherapy. Another one we'll talk about, turkey tail, is big with that too. But yeah, reishi is, they call it the mushroom of immortality, promoting longevity and things of that nature. So that's definitely a big one.
It's also very interesting that none of the allopathic health professionals, doctors, nurses, even social workers, it's like nobody is telling us about these simple, products that can help us so much. So we've already covered things to help with focus and intelligence and, mental acuity and memory. We've talked about now something that's being used for not a sedative, but helping people to naturally be able to relax, get enough sleep. I mean, why is it we don't know about these things? This is really, really important, especially when people are, wanting to take more control of their health.
Yeah, like I mentioned, like it's not something like you said that we really hear about. And like I said, like I tried melatonin and NyQuil and like other sleeping methods. And even like just since I've been doing this for a few months, I've had people come back and say the same thing, like with the reishi specifically, that they've tried things, and reishi helped tremendously. So that's a big thing. What I'm trying to do is spread that knowledge, like, hey, there's other things out there that can help you. So
yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, let's talk a bit about turkey tail.
Yeah, so turkey tail, all four medicinal mushrooms kind of have their big like their main benefits. So like with lion's mane, it was the cognitive function, reishi was sleep, and then cordyceps, which we'll talk about, is energy. So turkey tail doesn't necessarily have something like that as their main benefit. Turkey tail is the ultimate defender, you could say, for boosting your immune system. It contains the highest percentage of fungal beta glucans, which are the immune boosting properties inside medicinal mushrooms, and the water soluble compound inside medicinal mushrooms. But these fungal beta glucans alone don't fight off invaders or boost your immune system, but they interact with your immune system and your gut microbiome to boost B cells, T cells, natural killer cells, white blood cells, like all these things that fight off invaders. So it's the biggest thing with turkey tail is its immune boosting properties. Another thing is gut health. So it contains polysaccharopeptides, so PSP and then PSK, which is polysaccharochrestin. But the PSP interacts with your microbiome and your digestive system to essentially like nourish your gut and feed the good bacteria in your gut, which is the gut microbiome is like the center of your immune system. Like if you have a healthy gut, you have a healthy immune system. And with improving the good bacteria and decreasing the bad bacteria, same thing. It's great for your immune system and then overall just digestive health and lowering cholesterol levels and things like that, just overall health. And then, like I mentioned earlier, with the cancer studies, like turkey tail is a very common thing people use alongside chemotherapy. Like obviously it's not a cancer cure or whatever, but to help boost your immune system while you're going through chemotherapy is super important. And there's studies. I have a bunch of studies on my website if people would like to go check out, but with reducing mortality rates for people who use turkey tail during chemo versus people who don't. The PSK targets cancer cells. So there's lots of good things, just overall immunity, health, and just another guy in the mushroom world likes to say that taking turkey tail is like taking your immune system to the gym every day and preparing it to fight off invaders. So that's the big thing with turkey tail for sure.
Oh yeah, it sounds super important. I did not realize that. I actually know very little about mushrooms. And so now we have another mushroom that's good for helping us with defense and gut health. Gut health is so important. It's neglected by so many people. And I know people that go, well, we only eat junk food once a week. We're pretty good. We eat normal food. And I'm going, yeah, but the processed food sits in your gut and stops you from absorbing the nutrition that you need. And so something like this that's proactive to help nourish your gut biome, what happens is then we can extract the vitamins and the minerals and all the other nutraceuticals from what we eat. And it's so important for building up a foundation, so that we are not so that we can weather the storms, I guess, of illness and God knows what that's coming our way. Yeah.
Mhm.
So do you want to talk a bit about cordyceps? Because that's another mushroom I know very little about.
Yeah, so cordyceps is known as the energy mushroom or the athlete's mushroom, and it contains a compound called cordycepin, which increases ATP production, so
Oh yeah.
adenosine triphosphate, which is the energy currency for your muscles. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
with energy and kind of dilating your blood vessels, oxygen utilization, like that's what cordyceps is definitely big for. And I know there's a story, not a study, but I want to say the 1990 Chinese track and field Olympic team
Mm-hmm.
was smashing records, winning gold medals, and they actually credited a lot of their success to supplementing with cordyceps. And another interesting thing with cordyceps is there's actually two species of cordyceps. So cordyceps militaris is what you'll find in mushroom supplements. And then there's cordyceps sinensis, which is super interesting. So it grows up in the like mountain ranges in the Himalayas, and it actually infects caterpillars, takes over their bodies, and then sprouts out of their head. So that's another cordyceps species, and those like they're so hard to come by. A kilogram of cordyceps sinensis would go for about $20,000. Like it's the craziest thing, but luckily for us, cordyceps militaris is able to be cultivated, grown on rice and soy. And yeah, it's common in like pre-workout, things like that. Like I have friends who play hockey and they've been taking cordyceps. I've taught them about it and they keep coming back. It improves endurance, like I said, good for oxygen utilization and things like that. So yeah, it's definitely another important one.
Okay, but I gotta ask, if we eat cordyceps, we're not gonna have things taken over our body and growing out of our heads, right?
No, no. Luckily for us, we don't have to worry about that.
Oh, good. So that leads me to another question. Are any of the four mushrooms that we talked about today poisonous? Can people take too much, or how should people approach these mushrooms?
So they're definitely not poisonous. There's no like negative side effects besides like say allergies, things like that. It's just recommended, like you've mentioned, talk to a health practitioner, talk to a doctor if you're worried about any certain side effects or interacting with other medications. But the recommended dosage is 1 to 3 grams a day. And anything above that, you definitely want to talk to a professional. But other than that, I've been taking a gram of each of them in my smoothie every day for the last, like I said, 2, 3 years. So I wouldn't say there's anything to worry about, but if you're on other medication,
Yeah.
then definitely you want to be smart, right? And you want to talk to a doctor or health professional about something like that.
Mm-hmm, for sure. And can people contact you through your website to get more information or guidance on what to order or if it's good for this or that?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I have a website and there's a contact us form in there. Yeah, I have my email. Feel free to reach out with any questions. I also have a FAQ there too for frequently asked questions. And then if you like, I have a learn tab. So if you click the learn tab, I list off kind of benefits and then the studies, and then I link studies, so everything is all like backed up. These aren't just empty claims, right? So
Mhm. Oh, it
absolutely.
sounds great. Sounds great. So, for those of you who are watching or listening to this podcast and you're not actually able to see the information, the website is www.myco, spelled MYCO dash naturals. So that's MYCO dash NATURALS.com. And you can email Justin at sales at myco-naturals.com. But I'm going to have all the links in the description below, and I'll have one right on here too. And I'll also, when I process this video, I'll put in a picture of each of the different kinds of mushrooms while Justin's talking about it, just so that you get an idea what they look like, or what to expect. So please feel free to say more about any of these mushrooms, but I was wondering if you want to talk a little bit about extraction methods, because there's a lot of places selling mushrooms. Some people just go out and dig them and sell them at farmers markets. I'm not talking about you, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And there are some things about quality control that the folks are going to need to know about. So I wondered if you could talk about extraction methods, transparent labeling, and the issue of fillers. The body thrives when it has a mission, and there is no greater mission than to become the change we wish to see in the world. Sometimes, though, we need a little help from consultation and support services. Have you discovered that this world is not what you thought it was? Have recent global events awakened you and leave you feeling unsettled? Do you feel isolated with your not so popular newfound beliefs? Would you like to learn to thrive in this new state of awareness? It is a big shock to wake up and find that the old familiar world is gone, and it can be disturbing to go down the various rabbit holes only to find that the information is difficult to digest, and few people are willing to talk openly about it. You are not a conspiracy theorist. You are awakening, and once you find your way through it, there are many blessings on the other side. My name is Karen Holton, and I offer vital services that may be just what you need, and support for your journey into the weird and wonderful. Check out my Awakening Support and Ascension consultation, created to support individuals with their chosen alternative realities and lifestyles, health and recovery, and spiritual adventures. For more details, check out the various vital services found on my website, and be assured that I have found personal success with every category featured. My website is www.KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com. That's KarenHolton healthcoach.com.
Yeah. So yeah, as I mentioned before, when I first was trying to get into this, my initial thought was, okay, it's as simple as growing mushrooms, grinding them up, and then, consuming them in capsule or powder form. But I quickly learned that mushrooms need to be extracted. So the beneficial compounds contained within mushrooms are like sealed, or whatever you want to say, behind a cellular wall called chitin. And this cellular wall is the same substance that is used in like crustacean shells, like lobster shells. So it's something our body can't digest. So if you want to get the full benefits of mushrooms, they need to be extracted with either hot water, alcohol, or both. So as I mentioned before, the fungal beta glucans that are found within mushrooms are the water soluble compounds. So for example, the turkey tail will be hot water extracted, and you will get out the highest percentage of beta glucans. For something like reishi, which I mentioned, the triterpenoids and the ganideric acids, which are what help you sleep and relax, those compounds are alcohol soluble. So a mushroom like reishi will be dual extracted, which is with hot water and alcohol to pull out both the beta glucans and the triterpenoids. So that's an important thing to look for when looking for a trustworthy mushroom supplement. And then another thing that you mentioned with fillers. So I was talking about the mycelium and the stringy white roots of the mushroom. So something companies may do is they will grow out the mycelium on a grain substrate. So it'll be, rice or, whatever. They'll grow it out, and then the mycelium and the grain become almost inseparable. And then they'll just grind up the grain, capsule it, and then basically claim on their labeling or say, hey, like, here's lion's mane mushroom. But really, the mycelium is good. It does have beneficial compounds, but with those products, essentially what you're getting is, say, 90% grain and maybe 10% mushroom mycelium. So you're not really getting a high quality product. And you'll be able to know that on the label if it says mycelial biomass or mycelium on grain, or even full spectrum is another word that companies will try to kind of trick you, because full spectrum is essentially if you leave that mycelium in the grain long enough, like little mushroom, like Primadoria will start growing. So technically there's mushrooms in there, and then same thing, they'll grind it up and claim you're getting a good mushroom product. So you don't want to use mycelium on grain products. Definitely you want a product that uses either the fruiting body or fermented mycelium. So when mycelium is fermented, it's suspended in a liquid, and then they're able to take pure mycelium, extract it like that with no grain or fillers. So that's another big thing. And then another thing you mentioned was transparent labeling. So, for example, the products I'm carrying with Vibe, they will mention on the back of their label, it'll say turkey tail, and then standardized to contain greater than 35% beta glucans, or with reishi, standardized to contain however much percent of ganideric acids, because this has all been tested for, and Vibe has done their testing. And some companies, like, they won't put that on their labeling or mention anything like that, and then you don't know what percentage, or if there's even have they been tested, you don't really know. So those are definitely three things you want to look for when getting a high quality mushroom product.
So I was also wondering, up till now, I thought, because I saw you at the farmer's market, you had your little pouches with the mushrooms. So when I buy from you, am I getting a bag of ground up mushrooms, or am I getting a bag of the extracted medicinal ingredients that's been dehydrated and packaged? I'm not real clear on that. Can you help myself and any viewers that? Yeah, go ahead.
So with the packages we sell, the mushrooms are sourced. They've gone through the extraction process. They've gone through like safety testing for, say, pesticides, heavy metals, anything like that. They've gone through the third-party lab testing that I mentioned to standardize beta glucans, erinacines. So everything is all tested for, all extracted. So what I sell on my website is the end product, complete product. So like I mentioned earlier, you can either consume it in capsule form or powder form. I personally like the powder form. I just eat it. I drink a smoothie every day. So you just take a little teaspoon, put it in your smoothie, or your, like, lion's mane coffee is popular, so people put it in coffee, and then mix it up, drink it, and that's how you consume it. And then some people, of course, capsules is a very convenient way of consuming it. So those are the two ways of consumption that we have. But yeah, everything is extracted and tested for and all done up. So
Well, that's really important to know because price, is dependent on, the quality of the product. So people may be able to go somewhere and get cheaper mushrooms, but they may not be inspected, they may not be extracted, they may not be, who knows, without a guarantee like what you have. So I think it's also really, really important. And there's a big difference between going out and cutting mushrooms and putting them in your food and taking a product like what you have. I've tried eating some different mushrooms just, as they grow in the woods and then cook them. I find they actually don't really agree with me. I need something that's been extracted. So you're going to, the folks out there, you're going to find that it's more expensive to get something that's correctly extracted. It's going to be more concentrated. And I'm guessing that it would have less issues with stomach digestion because some people are a little bit more sensitive than others. Would you agree with that, Justin?
yeah, absolutely. Like I said, with the kind of non-extracted products or mycelium grain products, they're going to be cheaper. And like I had people come up to me at the farmers market and say, oh, like I just bought a lion's mane product from Nutters or one of those stores, and
Oh
typically
dear.
yeah. So I
You know why
mentioned
I'm saying oh dear when it comes to Nutters. That's like the closest thing we have to a health food store. It's
yeah.
basically bulk barn with a few. Anyway, sorry, go ahead. I
Yeah.
didn't mean
No,
to
no
interrupt.
worries. No,
I
I
just
I
had to laugh.
agree. So I mention exactly what I mentioned. I say, hey, like, yes, my product may be more expensive than what you just bought, but I assure you it's higher quality. So yeah, definitely keep an eye out for things like that.
Yeah,
They'll
yeah.
definitely be more expensive, yeah. But
Yeah,
you're
I
getting
was really shocked when I moved from Vancouver Island out to Red Deer. I loaded everything up in a U-Haul and like Pioneer Woman came out here. I was shocked. I was shocked at the difference in the culture. Huge difference in the culture. In Alberta, nobody swears. I swear like a truck driver. I swear a lot. I like to swear. It makes me feel good. Where I come from, everybody swears. I come out here and all of a sudden, woo, am I in trouble left, right, and center. But not just that, also awareness over health and lifestyle and basic, what I would consider basic stuff. A lot of people don't know. And I'm not putting anybody down here. I'm saying we all got to start somewhere when it comes to our learning journey. And then again, like we said earlier, over the last 3 years, it's woke a lot of people up. It's
yeah,
woken
absolutely.
a lot of people up. So yeah, this is really, really super interesting. And so see, I didn't know that. Now I'm going to go check my products and see if they're as pure as yours, because it's really important to get the right medicinal ingredients for when you want to improve your health. So I'm wondering if you have anything else you want to say about those, because I also want to talk to you a little bit about, Paul Stammen's and the Stammen stack, which I actually have all the ingredients. I just haven't started it yet. But I want to give
Right.
you a chance in case there's anything else you want to say about your products on Myco Naturals Incorporated website.
I mean, nothing specific, but yeah, I mean, they're super high quality products, as I mentioned. And yeah, I mean, I was skeptical at first, like everyone is, but doesn't hurt. Give it a try, see what works for you, and then yeah, see what doses work for you. But yeah, I have a list of benefits. Like I mentioned, kind of their main benefits, but there's a whole list of benefits as you've seen in my brochure. So, I mean, there's lots of good things. There's studies on my website and everything. So, if anyone wants to check it out, I greatly appreciate the support.
For sure. And Justin told me earlier before the show that he can ship internationally. Of course, you have to pay for the shipping. Overseas, it's pretty horrendous, but North America, it's really not that
Yeah.
bad.
In any shipping in Canada is all covered by me. So free shipping if you're in Canada.
Oh, I didn't know that. And the other thing too, I don't want to forget, I want to tell people again at the end so they don't forget, is I'll have a coupon code in the description below. So you could actually get 15% off your products if you want to try them out. So I'm pretty excited about that too. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So right now, I mean, things are changing really fast, but I believe in British Columbia, or maybe it's in Vancouver, they have now basically, I don't know if it's legalized or decriminalized psychedelics, but I think the day is coming, if it isn't here already, when psychedelics will be a certain amount, people can use them for personal use. And a lot of people think psychedelics means getting stoned out of your mind, visiting with God, going to other planets. Not necessarily. Do you know anything about microdosing? Justin, do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I'll mention, so definitely in BC and Vancouver, they're kind of the pioneers, so to speak. So definitely when cannabis was kind of gray area becoming legal, it was Vancouver, they were opening shops and kind of defying the laws, bringing it to light. So yeah, right now, I'm not even sure if it's decriminalized, but I know there are uh magic mushroom shops in Vancouver, which is super interesting, and they're really kind of breaking the ice again. But or even in Alberta, I think news just came out. They're legalizing like psychedelic therapy sessions in
Yes,
Alberta in the new year, which is amazing.
it is.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of research, but yeah, like psilocybin is so good for anxiety, depression, PTSD, OCD, alcohol use, nicotine use, like the list goes on.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many great benefits, and I'm not sure exactly what the future holds, but I know with these therapy sessions, I've looked into it. You essentially are like put in a room with a therapist. You're given a small dose of psilocybin. I think you get like headphones, like blindfold, and then you kind of they walk you through an experience. And exactly what goes on kind of depends on the person. But for example, I know there was studies done on like alcoholics, and they were doing these psychedelic sessions to quit alcohol essentially. And it's not a magic cure. It's not gonna like make them all of a sudden hate alcohol, but it sounds like what it does is it helps you look internally and kind of realize, all right, I'm hurting myself. I'm hurting those around me with this. So what the therapist will do is they'll walk you through what you're seeing. You'll explain to them on this mushroom trip. And yeah, and then hopefully on the other end, I know there's been good success with a lot of these studies. Hopefully on the other end, you feel a lot better, or with anxiety and depression, you're feeling a lot happier, your mood's increased. I know kind of the way they explain it is, at least in like anxiety patients, a lot of their thought patterns are like the same, and they'll go back to the same thought pattern.
Yeah, the same neural network that's just worn like ruts in the road, and it's time to shift that.
Yeah, exactly. So they explain it like a ski hill. So you'll have all the like ski lines or whatever you want to call them, and it's the same thought pattern. And they say taking psilocybin is essentially like a fresh snowfall, fresh powder, and everything resets, and you create these new neural pathways and neurogenesis and everything like that. So there's a lot there. It's exciting to see what's happening. I mean, to me, something natural grows in the ground, has this much power to help people with these certain things. The fact that it's illegal right now, I mean, it's wrong, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
know what the government knows, but I think in the next 2, 3 years, it's going to become a lot more accepted, legal. I'm not sure exactly. I know with these therapy sessions, it's already becoming accepted and legal. I'm not sure if it'll end up like cannabis with where everywhere you turn, there's a store that you can just go into. Will it end
Mhm.
up that way? I'm not sure, but yeah, there's definitely a lot there, and it's exciting.
Yeah, it really is exciting. I know of people who have been cured of cluster headaches, migraine
Mhm.
headaches, depression, anxiety, and just full disclosure, folks, I actually have tried psychedelics. I don't do them very often because I tend to get a very strong nausea factor with it, and it's very unpleasant. But when I get stuck, and I'm certainly not recommending any of you run out and do psychedelics because that's beyond the scope of this show, but I'm sharing my own experience and just information here. So, what happened for me is I like to do it about once a year, but I actually haven't done it now for probably about 2 years. I'm kind of due for another go round, and each time has been very different. And it's really quite a delightful experience, but there's certain things you need to pay attention to, like your mood going into it. Super
Mhm.
important. You don't want to do it to feel better. You want to already be in a good place before you do it. Um, and then there is your setting. You want to make sure you've got a beautiful environment. So you might want to set up, some healthy beverages in case you get thirsty. You might want to put on 432 hertz, music off of a YouTube channel or something. You want to make sure that your mom is not coming to drop in, and et
Yeah.
cetera, et cetera. Is there anything you would add to that, Justin, if people were going to adventure into that realm?
Yeah, I think kind of from my research and the things you mentioned, set and setting are very important. Being in a good headspace, being with someone you trust. So I think they
Mm.
call them like trip sitters or whatever, someone to be there with you, who's sober and like to walk you through and be there if anything goes wrong, obviously, because
Yes.
there's risks in anything. But yeah, just make sure you're being safe and just be smart with it, right?
For sure, for sure. Yes, and the other thing that I was surprised by when I have done psilocybin is actually the next day I don't have any kind of a hangover. I don't have any kind of the way if you went out drinking for a night, or even if you smoked too much weed, you could be a little bit spaced out the next day. I found out none of that. I felt extremely calm for about 3 or 4 days. So that's the other thing, aftercare. I'd made sure that I was also not putting myself in stressful circumstances so that I could just enjoy that relaxing, wonderful feeling. And I don't know if anyone's ever died from taking psychedelics, but I personally don't know anybody who's ever died from weed or any psychedelics. And actually, it kind
Yeah.
of class cannabis a little bit into psychedelics because it does cause a little bit of a perceptual shift. Sorry,
Mhm.
go ahead, Justin. What do you want to
Oh,
say?
I was just gonna mention what you're saying there. I believe it's the like safest and like with weed, there's no overdosing. It's safe is what I was trying to say. But yeah, like with alcohol, it's kind of weird how, alcohol has no benefit really to anyone and it's widely available, completely legal. And then there's things like mushrooms or weed not too long ago that you're not allowed to get. It's crazy, but it looks like we're moving in the right direction for sure.
Oh, yes, yes, because all of this is within the realm of medicine, which overlaps with magic, which overlaps, like it's really quite something. And what I love about having, as my mind expands, it never goes back. Once you know, and once you've had firsthand experience, you really know. And then you look at the world and you feel like a bit of a stranger in a strange land. All my relatives out here, they got a cigarette in one hand and coffee in the other, and they don't swear though. And I just don't really fit in. I thought I would, but the good news is we have online community. Thank God for that. And
Yeah.
obviously, you're a like-minded person who lives in the same town as me. I didn't even know you were here. So this is great. Absolutely fantastic. So
Mhm.
the other thing I wanted to talk about is I wanted to ask you, if it does become legal, will you also sell some psychedelics on your website, or is that something you're not planning to do?
Mm,
Hard to
it's a good,
say.
it's a good question. It kind of depends what route the legalization goes with. Like I mentioned, are there gonna be mushroom stores like there are weed stores right now where anyone can go in? It's definitely something I'm looking into and have looked into and something I'm interested in. It just kind of depends on that route, and maybe it won't necessarily be like Myco Naturals will be separate, and then
Yeah.
maybe me on a personal level with something else in that regard. But it's definitely interesting, and yeah, it's tough to say right now just
Yeah, I
with
don't want to put you on the spot. I don't want to
no,
put you
no
on the spot.
worries.
I just thought
But
I would ask.
yeah.
And actually, I don't know about, well, actually, yeah, in the States, there's quite a few like Colorado and different states that are very progressive.
Hmm.
And but I know psilocybin mushrooms are very easy to find online, even in Canada, and pretty cheap. And
Yeah.
so it's kind of nice to have that access to the mail order. But I don't want to take away too much from your program, but I'm wondering if we could just briefly speak to microdosing, because a lot of people don't realize you can microdose with weed, you can microdose with any of the psychedelics, and especially when they're combined with things like lion's mane. So
Hmm.
um, um, basically, how I understand microdosing, I've got everything ready, I just haven't started it yet. You don't take it every single day. You take a very, very small dose of the psilocybin, which is not enough for you to have any noticeable differences or effects whatsoever. You take the lion's mane with it, and then you take niacin. And I'm not prescribing here, I'm just sharing information and talking from my own experience. And you can find that information. It's called the Stamens Stack, and you can find it quite easily online. But I'm wondering if you want to speak just a bit, Justin, to microdosing.
Yeah, so I'm kind of familiar with it. Microdosing is, like you said, a very small amount of psilocybin, typically like 50 to 250 milligrams, kind of in that range. And yeah, it's a small enough dose that there's no perceptual changes. You're not going to trip. You're not going to be seeing things, but kind of just has those background effects with improving mood, improving creativity, and
Mhm.
like we mentioned with neurogenesis, neural pathways, and that's where the lion's mane comes into that, is they
Yes.
kind of work synergistically to improve those pathways, the neurogenesis, improve your focus, improve creativity, things of that nature. And yeah, it's not something you take every day. So I'm trying to think. I believe the Paul Stamets stack is 4 days on, 3 days off. So yeah, you'll take
Yeah,
it full.
or the other way around. I can't remember, but yeah, it was a 4 and
Yeah.
3. So you're not
Yeah,
doing
you'll
it
have
every
to
day.
definitely like research if you're into trying to get into it. But and then the other one is 2 days on, 2 days off. But yeah, because you build up essentially a tolerance to it. So you want to be taking breaks and things of that nature. But yeah, it's super, I mean, it's becoming a lot more common with people doing it. And with all the studies coming out, like seems like something that can really help with your mental frame and everything like that. So
Yeah.
definitely interesting. And yeah, just with the lion's mane and the stamina stack and everything added into it, it all works kind of synergistically for just a healthy brain and a healthy you. So
Oh, I would agree. Now, folks, if you're going to try the Stammen Stack, please get your lion's mane from Justin so you know you're getting a super good product, because ultimately we're trying to get ourselves into a better place. I think the really amazing thing that's happening is the trend is we're moving from going to external experts like doctors and specialists, and we're going to internal specialists. So we only know what we try ourselves, but it's amazing thing how many resources we have within ourselves, and we just intuitively know what we want to try, what we don't want to try. It's a pretty amazing thing, and I think really we're all responsible for our own health. We're responsible to take care of ourselves and to learn how to. And the lazy way is to just go to the doctor and get a pill, and all that does is shuts down symptoms and doesn't do anything for the causes of the problems. I know, I'm 66 years old. I went to the doctors for years. I had migraines, terrible migraines. All they did was prescribe narcotics, but nobody ever figured out why I was getting the headaches. Funny thing is, I was getting the headaches from the shampoo because it has sodium lauryl sulfate in it, or SLS, and it's super toxic, and it's in everything. Hand sanitizers and pump soaps and everything, and I didn't know. And then when I quit using that, my migraines went away. So I took all those pills for all those years that had a deleterious effect on my health because I didn't know what was the cause. And we need to take our power back. I just really feel we need to take our power back. So our show is coming to an end soon, but not quite yet. Justin, I want to give you a few minutes. I want you to talk if you have anything else you want to say about the mushrooms, but also how do you see mushrooms as taking a place in with us so that we can take back our health, take back our power, and what kind of a world are you looking forward to?
Yeah, so like I've mentioned, I'm big on natural health, and actually something you just mentioned with the shampoo and toxic things in there. I'm hoping, I anticipate a more natural products out there, people, like you said, looking within. Even something, this is mushroom related, but I've switched my deodorants to ones that don't contain aluminum, and my toothpaste, no fluoride, like things like that. So that's kind of what I anticipate, and that's what I'm doing for myself. And yeah, and as we've talked about, mushroom, like a saying is fungi are the future, and I truly believe that. There's so many great benefits, something natural, something that had been around for millions of years, and they have that ability to help us deal with certain things. And they're also known as like preventative medicine. So like I take turkey tail every day, and I swear I've not been sick in 2 years. Like maybe the sniffles one day, but something will be going around with my friends. Everyone gets sick, everyone's bedridden, and I don't get sick. I'm a firm believer in mushrooms and what they can do. And yeah, I'm looking forward to more natural health, natural ways of protecting yourself, helping yourself, doing things in that nature. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to spread that knowledge, which it's big coming on here. I'm glad I was able to share my knowledge to your listeners. And yeah, just kind of keep pushing for that, I guess, is what I'm anticipating.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, for those that are just listening to the audio version of this podcast, do you want to tell everyone again your website, your email, or your Instagram, anything that you want to share?
Yeah. So my website is www.myco-naturals.com. You can find me on Instagram at myco_naturals. And then my Facebook page is just Myco Naturals. You can email me at sales@myco-naturals.com. And then, yeah, like I mentioned, I added a discount code called Quantum15. So if any of the listeners are interested in trying my products, use that code for 15% off. I greatly appreciate the support, and yeah.
Wonderful. Well, it's been a real pleasure to have you on. And, I hope to have you back sometime. We can talk more about this as everything grows and everybody, learns more. Or if you have another side project you just want to talk about, everything on the Quantum Guide Show is to help give some amazing guidance to people who are just waking up or people that are isolated because their newfound beliefs have put them at odds with their community, or just people that are interested in a positive show that gives them tools that they can use. So it's really, really important. And I also want to tell people to check out Quantum Health Transformation on my website if you'd like to learn more about detoxification. I cover everything. It's a 9-step program. It's absolutely free. And I cover detoxification, a whole section on that: physical, external detoxification, internal detoxification, and even emotional detoxification. And then I even have another in step 5, sorry, step 654. Step 4, I even talk about how to detoxify from the construct. The world that we're taught is real, and it ain't. And we're building a new one for ourselves. So thank you, Justin, so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate your time. I want to thank all the viewers for joining us, and we'll see you again next week on the Quantum Guide Show. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change that you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to my YouTube, Odyssey, and Telegram channels. Like this video and share it with your friends. You can also find the Quantum Guide Show and my other podcast called Aliens and Astrology on the Forbidden Knowledge News Network. That's www.forbiddenknowledge.news. And while you're at it, check out my website, www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com, where you will find some amazing products and services and an abundance of free resources to help you with your journey. All of the links are in the description below. And in the meantime, until we see you next week, keep up the good work.
Endlessness puts all my inner strife to rest. For time gives birth to hurriedness. It all makes sense, well, more or less. And the sages put me to their test. With heart and soul, I do my best to find the answers to my quest. I wonder and I must confess, I don't know where it comes from, but I know it's okay. If this is all an illusion, then I'm willing to play. It's okay. It's okay.